welcome to another episode of Dad Can We Talk? This is episode 81, and today I am outside doing this podcast over Zoom. So if you hear any sounds in the background, my kids are in the backyard in the pool. So if you hear any kids screaming, I'm outside on my front porch. If you hear any cars or hear anything, dogs or whatever, just ignore it all. You know, people just reliving regular life. And so I'm just ready to get into this episode today. But before that, I need all my followers to go to dadcanwetalk.com. If you have not already, check out some of the old episodes, and if you can and would be nice enough, kind enough, go to the YouTube page and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Go to Instagram, follow us on Instagram. Go to Facebook and follow on Facebook, and go to TikTok and follow on TikTok. And it is Dad Can We Talk across the board, where you can find us, or you can just type in Google Dad Can We Talk, and usually you will see some type of link connected to the podcast there if you're looking to listen to the podcast. So without further ado, like I said, this is episode 81, and we are inching that much closer to getting to episode 100. Man, I am so excited, and I can't wait until we get there. It's been a long journey over the last 2.5 years of doing this podcast. There have been many days where I wanted to quit and give up, but I'm still doing it. I'm still pushing. I'm going. I'm trying to keep it going, even though a lot of things in life gets crazy at times. Stuff with the kids, marriage is wild at the moment. Currently, is very wild. So y'all continue to pray for me, man. Pray for my wife. Pray for my marriage. Let's pray for my kids. Pray for everyone, man. Involved. There's just a lot of stuff going on. It's just a lot. Life can get heavy at times, but that's why I do Dad Can We Talk, because Dad Can We Talk for me is therapeutic, and it gives me the opportunity to talk with another man, and just be able to get some things off my chest and allow another man to be able to get some things off his chest. I think it's good and it's very healthy for men to do this. So that's why I do what I do, man, because I believe that we all need an outlet. So that Dad Can We Talk is that outlet for dads and men, period. So yeah, without further ado, man, let's get here. I got a guest with me today, a guy that reached out to me on Instagram a few weeks ago, and man, we just started talking fatherhood. Started talking what our journeys have been up until this point, and I just thought it was fitting that I would bring bro on the podcast, because I like to hear the stories of dads from all over the place. And he is in England, if I'm not mistaken. But what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna allow him to introduce himself to the Dad Can We Talk community. How you doing, my man?
I'm good. I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, it's a privilege to be on. Yeah, my name's Dan. I'm living out here in England. I reached out to you on Instagram. That's right. I go by the name of HiThatDadGuy.
Yeah.
Basically, because a lot of other names were taken, but one of the main reasons is I'm a physiotherapist, a physical therapist. So a lot of the time, if you have a social media presence, you kind of have to have like an alter ego, if you will. So yeah, that's why I kind of keep my full name out of it and like go down a different route. But no, yeah, I've had a few things going on lately, and we started because I've not been on Instagram long, and I kind of sort of started reaching out to other dads, came across your page, and I could see that you were connecting with like lots of different people. And I've got a little girl. She's 2.5, almost, well, just over 2.5. So every day is just a learning experience. So being able to speak to other dads about it, it's just like, oh, it's mega. You can't put a price on that. The people around where I live, it's a bit spread out, so you get a proper connection with people at a touch of a button on something like Instagram. So it's great. But yeah, no, I'm going through a few things. So I'm a physical therapist, but I've kind of just moved into part-time working because over the past 9 months or so, I've had a bit of an epiphany where I've decided I want more flexibility in my life. I want more time with my family. I don't want to be stuck in a rigid structure of work that's 9 to 5 and someone else is pushing the buttons and we don't really get much choice. So I've started to make a few changes in my life. So I'm sure we'll talk about that today as well.
Oh yeah, definitely. Well, yeah, we're definitely gonna get there. I want to go there now, but I'm gonna hold back. But we're gonna start it how we always started. Dad, can we talk? Always has this as the first question, so we're gonna go there. We want to take it back real quick. I want you to talk about what your relationship was like with your dad.
In all honesty, when because now I don't have a relationship with him whatsoever. So I'm 36, and that relationship finished probably when I was about 16. There are lots of reasons, and we can get into that. I'm happy to talk about that. But yeah, my relationship with my dad when I was younger was probably mixed, I would say. It mainly centered around football, soccer. I played a lot of it as a child, and he got involved in the sort of like local junior clubs, and that was our sort of thing, and for my brothers as well. So that was our bonding experience. But there were times where there were negative aspects to that as well, really. But in brief, we don't have a relationship anymore. But I'm happy to go into that further.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you. Has there been how long has it been since you guys, really just had a relationship?
Between me and him. So it'll be like 20 years now.
20. Wow. Wow.
And there was just one day where I decided no. So basically what happened to lead to that point, when I was a lot younger, I think he cheated on my mum, and they got back together eventually. So there was maybe, I don't know, a period of a couple of months where they weren't together. But me and my brothers had realized that something was going on. Didn't know quite what because we weren't old enough. And they got back together and we kind of discontinued as normal. And then years down the line, my parents opened a restaurant, and we moved to live above it because it was just easier logistically with getting to and from school, etc. We didn't have to go to a different house in between. So yeah, we kind of lived above it, and it was doing really well. There came a point, I don't know, maybe 5 years after it opening, and it had a good reputation, like locally and with people from afar. And I was in my room, so I was maybe like 15. I was in my room, and my mum and dad were in their bedroom next door, and I could kind of hear a bit of arguing. I didn't know what was going on, and then that night he slept in the same room as me. So it might have taken like a couple of weeks, but he moved out, and it came to be that we found out that he was seeing another woman. But not only that, the sort of precipitating factor for him making this decision to move out was that he'd run up a massive debt on the business. So he was jumping ship, and he was kind of leaving us with that grenade, really. So that put my mum in just like the worst position possible. She had to sell everything. I mean, like we had a car, um, like I want to say an expensive car, but it was his choice. So it's like a two-seater. So by no means a family car. So we had that car and sort of like a family car. So he took that. So we couldn't really cash in on that as well. So she had to sell all the business. We couldn't live above it anymore. We had to live with my grandparents for a while, maybe 2 or 3 months. And we eventually got put into something called a council house, which is like social housing for people who can't afford their own home. So we were rerouted to a different part of where we're living, a bit of a dodgy neighborhood. So we had all that to contend with. But at the same time as all this was going on, he still wanted to be in our lives. So there was kind of like, he'd just done this massive insult, but still expected relationships to be normal. And for me at the time, like I I think I was in denial. So I didn't break things off, and I would see him now and again and sort of just like make out that things were normal. My mum just tried to be there for us and try not to have all these negative emotions in front of us. So I've got two younger brothers, and there's like 2 years in between us all. So the middle brother, I think he decided almost straight away that he just didn't want anything to do with this guy anymore. And it took me and my younger brother a bit longer to get to that point, really. But I found out down the road that my dad would turn up at our house. Well, first of all, my mum didn't want him to find out where we were living. So he went to all these measures to like try and follow us from school, etc. So he found out in the end, and then he would park outside and sort of taunt my mum when we weren't there and stuff. Basically, yeah, he's just a douche. But I made a decision one day. I think he called. He'd let us down. I think it was me and my younger brother was supposed to meet him, and then he cancelled last minute or something. And yeah, that was just the straw that broke the camel's back, really. And I decided I didn't want anything to do with him anymore. But yeah, to summarize, he left us in a massive amount of debt. All for the reason that he didn't want to deal with it. And the woman he got with, we found out that like she had money behind her as well. So it just speaks volumes for the type of person he is to one, do that to his family, and two, just like how easily he can jump to dollar, really. So yeah, that's the relationship, and that's why there is no relationship anymore.
Oh yeah, definitely understandable. Understandable. Man, and so with you going through all of that, and it's been what, 20 years now, do you think that's had any effect on you as you've grown as a man?
I was thinking, I thought about this on a couple of occasions, because for me, like I don't feel um, any sort of longing for him, but sometimes I've thought, oh, what would it be like to have like a supportive dad, a good dad? And that's the same growing up, really, because he wasn't the greatest. But I think maybe the biggest effect it's had on me is that it turned me into a person, or I leveled up into a person that where if someone isn't going to meet me halfway, or if someone wants to take advantage of me, I I just move them out of my life, and I go the opposite direction, and I make my plans that way. And I think that's the strength that it's given me to not accept any BS and to focus on what's meaningful to me and the people I love around me, really.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, that's good. Would you say that now that you have a almost 3-year-old child, and you're a dad yourself, how do you think that relationship with your dad has affected the way that you're raising your own child?
I have been and still can be quite impatient or have expectations of people that might be sometimes unrealistic, but they're based on maybe my initial thoughts of how things should be. So for what, like one example is, I'm not the tidiest of people, but I don't like mess. If you
Yeah,
see, if you understand what I mean.
yeah,
So with having a kid, mess comes, and our little
definitely.
girl, she's amazing, and she's really clever, but I think sometimes I get caught in the trap of expecting that she should understand more than she does. So um I I really have to remind myself of that and come back down to her sort of level. And I've tried to do a lot of work around that, because if I'm honest, at first I wasn't dealing with that very well. I would get, like I say, very impatient and cross, and that was affecting our relationship. And I could see that I was in the blame, and I needed to do something about that, really. So I mean, talking with people like yourself is one way that I've tried to go around it. I read self-development books, so not just about parenting, but like about business and mindset. And like, I've never been a big reader, and I'm still not. But I sort of ingest a lot of like podcasts and audiobooks and stuff, like things on YouTube, like that. That's how I learn, really. So that's helped me lots in the past. I don't know, like maybe since the turn of the year, I've made like big leaps in having a better approach with my little girl, and we've bonded more from that. And I think when I look back, the way I was initially was probably how my dad was with me and my brothers. Like I can definitely see that. I can see all those sort of flashing examples. So that's even more motivation for me to not be that person.
And that's good. It's good that you say that because even me, I'm 9 years into fatherhood, and man, I still to this day, deal with some of that same stuff. Uh, I recently just saw a video that was it was swirling around on the internet on social media, and it was a young girl. She maybe was 15 or 16, and she was talking to a panel of adults. I'm not sure I never did go too deep into to see what the actual context of the video was, but there was this teenager talking to maybe about 5 or 6 adults. It looked like it was like a panel, and they were having a discussion, and they gave her the mic so that she could speak. And the things that the girl said, it just struck me to my core, man, because I'm like, wow, everything she's saying is so true. And she was just saying how at times as parents we alienate kids, when we say these mean and hurtful things to them. And she was just talking about how our words are so uh they hold so much weight. And like, and she gave the example of saying things like, um I think she was saying something about how as a parent sometimes we would say, this is out I'm providing this house for you to live in, stuff like that. And she was like, we almost belittle them and make them feel like, you know wow, like they don't have any ownership in anything. It's like we're like the big boss and we're telling them all of these things. Or she had another example of like how we say things like, we just say things that could be hurtful, and it makes it seem like the child is a burden. you know and I
And it can
know
be
I
something. Sorry, Anthony. I was going to say it could be something as trivial as like they've spilt some of their dinner, but our reaction can just make them feel so small. And what I've realized, and I watched a video the other week as well. But yeah, they don't process it in the same. They see that they've done something wrong, and yeah, they sort of feel this shame. Is what I've sort of read about them sort of expressing, and that's why, well, at least with my little girl, when she's like that, she might throw something there, and it seems like she's misbehaving, but she's just trying to express that she's feeling this sort of shame about her feeling that she's done something wrong because of my initial reaction. So I've really tried to be on top of that. Like one example would be that, and it's not that I've tried to or thought that I had a negative reaction, but for example, if she does something like really sweet or clever and you give her praise, sometimes she gets a bit embarrassed. And if you're in like close proximity, like she would hit you. Because she's trying to process that feeling of being embarrassed because she's receiving praise for something. And it used to be that I would say, ow, that hurts, or you're hurting daddy, or you're hurting mummy. Where it's only recently that I saw this video. It's someone on Instagram. I can't remember what they're called. I think I did a post about it as well. But she says, this lady says that the child is, because you're saying you've hurt daddy, they're feeling shame, and that sort of escalates their negative emotions, and they might carry on, or they're not processing how they want to communicate very well, and you sort of get caught in this cycle. So one of the pieces of advice with something like that, which I've tried to take on board, is that because you want to set boundaries, like you don't want to let them hit you, you want to let them know that it's not a good thing. But yeah, one of the pieces of advice was, I think it was sort of trying to put a bit of space in between you and your child, so you step back or you put a cushion there. You say, I'm not going to let you hit me. So you're still sort of setting that boundary, but at the same time, you're maybe not saying like you've hurt me and them feeling bad about that and that escalating their sort of negative emotions. But no, I completely agree with you. It's a juggling act to keep ourselves in check about how we're reacting, what we're saying in front of our kids, for sure. It's every day is a school day.
Yeah. And it was crazy because, sometimes I would say certain things and I wouldn't think that they would, doesn't take too much weight, but, days would pass by and I might get into an argument with, my oldest daughter, and she would bring up something that I said, some days ago. And, man, I had a bad habit of at times when my kids would do things that I would feel like it's stupid. And I would say that to them, like, that's just stupid. Like that what you're doing. And my daughter was like, well, daddy, you think I'm stupid? And I'm like, no, I don't think you're stupid. I just said what you did was a stupid thing. But I had to really think about it. She doesn't know how to process, what I'm saying. All she hears is that dad is saying that I'm stupid. And I'm like, man, that's something that I really have to fix. In my time of anger, I'm lashing out. And a lot of times I'm not really as mad with the kids because a lot of the things that they're doing is just kid things. Most of the time I'm mad about other things. It might be something that happened at work, or I might be mad with my wife about something or whatever. And I lash out on the kids. And that's just something that I'm constantly every day trying to work on, watching my words and being kind, just uh I was listening to something last week and it talked about as a dad, we whatever we bring into our house every day, everyone else will experience. So if we bring anger and strife into our house every day, my wife is going to feel that, my kids are going to feel that. But if I'm bringing happiness, uh peace and kindness, and I'm promoting that with my actions, everyone else will feel that, and the atmosphere in my home will be exactly what I'm bringing into the home. So yeah, we just have to be really careful on everything that we say and do.
Absolutely. It's you can't take your finger off it for a minute, can you? There's always a point of being conscious about what's going on when you're a parent. It's a full-time job.
Man. Oh my God. Every day, man. You get no breaks in this job. But I wanted to ask you this question. How have you adjusted to the responsibilities of fatherhood? You know, you're about 3 years in. What's your adjustment been, from like what was life before children and now, like now that you have children, how have you adjusted to those added responsibilities?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I guess because we were living somewhere different to where we do now. And where we were living, me and my wife sort of relocated for work reasons. So we were starting fresh and we didn't know a lot of people there. So that sort of had an impact on what we were doing day to day. Um, so before my little girl came along, in the evenings, me and my wife would maybe, I don't know, like watch a few like things on Netflix or go we went for walks a lot. That's something we did at the weekends, like all the time, like a long walk. Um, if not 2 days, then definitely the one. And in the evenings, we lived in a sort of like rural area, so it was nice to go for a walk if the weather was good. Um, we'd go out for meals at times. Um, at the weekends, we'd do that, or we'd go further afield to like visit some friends. And I don't want to say that having a child has stopped all of that, but we definitely don't do it as often. Um, I used to like I used to have hobbies that I don't really know if I have anymore really. I guess I used to do jujitsu for a bit. I used to play a lot of football, soccer, but that was a while ago. But I'd play it now and again. But since having a kid, my wife doesn't swim as much. I don't exercise as much. I don't play guitar as much. We don't go for walk. Well, we do go for walks, but not in the same sort of way. So everything has changed since having a kid, and maybe that's not the case for everyone, but it has been for us. And maybe people who think they'd like to have kids or are expecting maybe feel that things won't change that much. But in my experience, everything changes when you have a child, but I wouldn't change it for the world. Um, so now as a parent, I guess we just have to keep a more structured routine, really. And everything you do, the first thought you have is what's for the benefit of my child. So whether it's having to stay at work a bit later, you're having to plan, okay, do I need to pick them up from nursery or from grandparents? Or if someone invites you to a christening or a wedding, you have to think, okay, well, we'll have to travel there. So when does this fit around nap time? What time would we have to set off? Where we're going to sleep? Everything just changes, doesn't it? But I I think as my little girl is getting a bit more independent and conscious of things, it's given us a tiny bit more freedom to work stuff into our week separately. So, for example, like I might go for the odd run, or I'm spending a lot of time on social media at the moment trying to put out content. So, my wife and my little girl have been amazing and sort of let me do that without me feeling the pressure. Um, so yeah, everything changes. I don't know if you'd agree, if you sort of like felt that as
Oh,
well.
trust me, man. I agree 200%. And I'll say this to you, man. This is something that I've just learning in the last maybe 2 years. I'm going on. I just hit 10 years of marriage, and our oldest daughter is 9. So we had a child right after we got married. And one thing that I'm noticing is one thing I think it hurt us. It's hurt our marriage And this is like an advice that I'm trying to give others now, because I don't think I think my wife and I, we both lost ourselves for a few years. Just having kids. We had our first child 2013, and then my son came 2015, and then we had our third 2016. So we had the kids kind of back to back to back. And like you said, like before marriage and stuff, I was big playing basketball every day. I've always liked to exercise, be out and about, just doing physical activities. And I lost a lot of that becoming a parent. And my wife, I think it was even harder for her because she's a little younger than me, 2 years younger than me. And she hadn't really established herself that much before marriage. And I think she totally lost herself in parenthood. And these are things that she's communicated to me. And it has caused problems in our marriage because she started to feel like she didn't know who she was anymore, because her whole identity was in being a wife and being a mom. And she couldn't really, like, if you were to ask her, what do you like doing? She doesn't know because she never really had the time to explore, her interest and things that make her happy. Everything is surrounding. And then being married to someone like me who has a lot of things going on a lot of times, I was in ministry for like 10 years. Um, recently been doing a podcast since like 2018, and been doing community work for the like last 10 years. Um, I'm always busy. I'm always over here, over there, doing this and doing that. So I lost myself in a lot of those things, doing community work, being a dad, being a husband. And it was a little hard on me, but I'm sure it was much harder on her because of her position. For years, some couple of years, she didn't work because she was home with the kids. Uh, and so now, maybe about 2 years ago, she came to me and she brought that to my attention that she feels, she felt uh, almost trapped, like she didn't know where else to go, like like she just doesn't know who she is, and she struggled with her identity. And it's just been really hard on her. And so I kind of took a step back because I didn't know these things. Of course, I'm moving 100 miles per hour every day. So when she brought it to my attention, I kind of was like, well, I didn't know these things. So I kind of took a step back to let her breathe a little bit and allow her to explore different things in life to try to help her. And, that's still an ongoing thing for us that she's still trying to learn. And, even recently, maybe last year, it was one day I went to the basketball gym to pick my son up from my brother, and my nephew was there, and I was playing basketball with my nephew, and it hit me in that moment that, wow, man, I am so out of shape. Like, I've just never been this out of shape in my life, never been this out of shape. And I was like, man, I've totally lost myself. And I used to like playing video games, all of that, and I found myself not even touching my video game for almost 6 or 7 months. And I'm like, man, I don't do the things that used to make me happy. The things that I did in my downtime. I wasn't doing those things anymore. And I just finished school, and I took a class called The Psychology of Play. And it was a class about how play plays a big part in human development. Play meaning, exercising, playing video games, just doing things that make you happy. And like that stuff is just so important for us to continue to do, because those are the things that make us happy. When I'm not with my kids or I'm not with my wife, what is it that I do? Do I play my video games? Do I take time to go to the basketball gym? Do I go and work out? Do I go take a run? Do I go take a walk? All of these things are important for us to continue um, in our own happiness, you know, and we can't be so um, get so stuck in that world of where like all we know is fatherhood and marriage, and then when we take a step back and it's only me, like I found it hard to actually find downtime. And when I would get downtime, I would feel bad for, you know, taking time for myself because I felt like, man, you know, I got to be
Yeah.
doing something with the kids. I got to be doing something with my wife. And I wanted to ask you, like, is that something that you've dealt with as far as, you know, like I said, you've been in for 2 years now. And I know, you know, that's a little early, but um has there like do you ever feel bad like for saying, you know what, I need 2 hours for myself today without my wife, without my child, to just be Daniel.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting you say that. And it's only up until recently that I found that it's an actual thing, like us feeling guilt for taking some time out for ourselves. Um, I've come across like loads of dads on Instagram, on TikTok that are sort of talking about this mental burnout that we exhibit as men, as dads, because we try and keep everything in order. We try and portray this sort of that everything's working fine and we're in control, but we've got all these things going on in our head. So that's like one aspect of what I feel is it's like maybe being a husband as well as a dad. But definitely in terms of taking time for ourselves, feeling guilty for doing it. And that's even if I don't know, sometimes I might go to the toilet for
Yeah,
um a
exactly.
longer period of time and you get caught up in your phone and then you come out and you realize one, you might have missed something, and two, maybe while you're in the moment on your phone you have this realization that yeah, you just like, I'm not being active in what's going on with my wife and my little girl. And but it's just so important that we give ourselves that time to recharge a bit, even if it's 20 minutes in the
Yeah,
day or 10 minutes here, 10 minutes there. And we definitely shouldn't feel bad about it. But I think the thing that makes me feel um, bad is as well is that my wife does a lot. Like my little girl, she loves her mum and they've got a really close bond. And a lot of the time, at least at the moment, and it comes in waves, but it has been for a long time where my little girl will want mummy to do everything. And that's so draining. Like especially when she's waking up at night and it has to be mummy that goes in, things like that. So um that's probably meant that there are times where I'm trying not to take that time out for myself, because I feel that she needs it more. But by the same token, I think we all have to do it, and I think now, and it's only recently, and I was speaking to a mum on Instagram the other day, and I think her kids are a bit older. She's maybe been doing it for at least like 7, 8 years at least. But she said she experienced that burnout, and there comes a point, that critical point, and we're talking about it now, where you and your wife had it. You realize that you have to make some changes, otherwise you can't go on. You just you're mentally drained. It's affecting your relationship with your partner. It's probably affecting relationship with friends, with work, with everything. Um, so yeah, I think the best thing that I could say about that, and it's something that me and my wife do quite regularly, but probably don't get the traction that we probably want as quickly as we want. But we do talk about how to structure our week and okay, do you want to do this then? And like her going for a swim with my content that I'm trying to produce on social media. I could be better at structuring that because it's quite sort of ad hoc at the moment. And I feel guilty for that because sometimes when you're trying to create content, you're trying to capture something in the moment and that'll take you away from another moment. And I've sort of felt bad about doing that at times because it's taken me away from my girls. But it's definitely a thing, man. It's how do you deal with it?
Uh, just recently, because of my kids, they've gotten older now. You know, they're 9, 6, and 5. What I realized is that the first 5 years of life are the hardest. Um, the first 5 years of parenthood, they're like those are the hardest years, you know, because the child is developing so fast, and you have to give them so much attention. Um, like those are literally their most important times of their life. You know, how they develop in those first 5 years determines really almost the rest of their life. You know, so now that they're a little older now, and my youngest is 5, and she's about to start school next year and stuff, I find myself having more time now. So maybe last October, I started back going to the basketball gym. Uh, 2 days a week. I told myself, you know, I'm gonna go after work on Tuesdays and Thursdays, you know, and I make that my time. And at the basketball gym, they have a playground outside, and it's like a big gym with like 4 courts inside of it. So it gives the kids. So after I would pick the kids up from school. I tell them, hey guys, listen, we're going to the gym today. Um, Go outside, play on the playground if you want. If you want to come inside, you can play inside. But right now it's daddy's time. Daddy's gonna be over here playing basketball with his friends, and this is your time. This is your time to be free. Daddy isn't bothering you. As long as you're safe and you're good, I'm not gonna bother you. And I give them, you know, 2 hours out the day, you know, from about 2.5 hours where they can be free and be kids. Go make friends at the playground, go inside, play basketball. And I have my time as a dad where I'm not worried about work. I'm not worried about anything. Just it's that's my way of freedom, having that freedom to just go and play basketball. Like that's my favorite hobby in the world. I'll do that. Like it just gives me it's an escape for me. And then on times when I have a podcast, those are my days where I get an hour or 2 hours where I just it's just me and another person, and I get to talk and release, you know. So that's how I've been dealing with it, you know, just, you know, setting that time up, you know, 2 times a week where I am going out where the kids can be kids, daddy can be daddy. I leave you alone, you leave me alone. And then after we leave the gym, it's back to okay, what are we doing? Let's go and find some dinner. Let's go home. We're gonna clean up. You know, you're gonna take a bath. You're gonna eat. Get ready for bed. You know, and just that changed a lot for me, man. You know, I started to see myself um, become a lot more happier during the week. You know, having that time for myself. So that's, you know, just carving out that time to do something that I really enjoy.
Yeah.
Um,
What was it like trying to do it for the first time? Was that hard? Like
oh,
kind
it
of saying to your kids, I'm gonna go and play with my friends. Like you can play here, do whatever you want. What was that like the first time?
Um, it was good. You know, they were like my kids, they are social butterflies. So for them, they're like, huh, the playground. Oh my God.
Freedom.
So yeah, they every day, you know, they tell me they met this new friend, they met this person, and so they they thrive in those types of situations. So they love it. So it got to the point to where, you know, they know on Tuesdays and Thursdays after I pick them up from school, they say, hey daddy, are we going to the gym? Sure are. That's where we're headed right now. You know, and
Nice.
it became a normal part of life where they look forward to it, and they tell people, hey, we go here on Tuesdays, we go here on Thursdays. And it just became a part of life. My wife already would know, hey, this is where they are during this time. I mean, she would be at work a lot of times, but um, yeah, it was just hard to just get back in that routine to make it normal. You know,
Yeah.
consistently every Tuesday, this is where we're going. Every Thursday, this is where we're going. and just putting that in the schedule. I write it inside of my calendar and to remind myself, gym day, gym day.
And
So
that's the key, isn't it? Making it a routine,
yeah,
because that's what forms habits, that repeated activity with certain or in certain environments, like on a certain time pattern. So your kids, like you say, your kids have learned that it's something to look forward to, and it's something that sticks then as well, especially if everyone's enjoying it. So that's amazing. That's a good tip. We need to build more routines here, I think.
yeah, sir. And I think it'll come. I think for you guys, I know it's a little hard. Being that the baby is, you can't, like at 2 years old, you can't tell them, hey, go to the playground. I'll be back. Just, so with my kids being a little older, it's giving me a little more freedom to where I'm not worried. Like I'm inside of a gym and the playground is outside and there's a fence. So I trust my kids, hey, listen, when you leave out of the gym, walk on the sidewalk and go over into the playground. When you come back out of the playground, open the gate, walk on the sidewalk, come back inside of the gym. I'm able to give them instructions and say, hey, this is what you do. If you need me, this is where I am. So they know to come inside, hey, daddy, we need this, or I need this, or this happened. So, but when they're 2 years old, 3 years old, you can't really do that. So you kind of, everything you do has to literally be centered around them, or else, you run the risk of putting your kid in a dangerous situation. So,
So those first 5 years, you're saying intensive, and then you get a bit back, you feel?
yeah, like with my 9 year old,
Yeah.
man, I trust, I still got that, keep my hand on her, but, you know, I trust that they can come outside, after work some days and I need a nap, and I tell the kids, hey, listen, if you want to go play outside, the cars come in the road, you get out of the road. I know I can go in there and close my eyes for 15 to 20 minutes. Now I might wake up and there might be cereal all over the floor and and the bread might be left open and jelly might be on the counters. But I trust that they're not gonna go roam away and go walk down the street, you
Yeah.
know. So yeah, I give them a little more freedom. Um, or I might tell them, hey, here's the Xbox controller, use the Xbox. Or here's, like, my oldest daughter, she knows how to use my laptop. So I tell her, hey, here's the laptop, play games or whatever, Roblox. And that's what they do. So, and it feels like, I say, man, it's so much freedom in that because, man, those first 5 years, and I have 3 kids. So it's like another level where you have multiple kids and you have to worry about them. Like they can kind of entertain themselves. I know for you guys, you only have one child. So that child is looking for you for all of their entertainment. Where's mommy and where's that? And mommy needs to make me happy. Mommy needs to entertain me. I'm gonna entertain mommy. So that's that's hard in itself at times, you gotta be that, you gotta read to them, you gotta talk to them. So yeah, that can be difficult. I remember the one child days. We did that for 3 years, and man, it was constant attention. But my first daughter, she benefited a lot from that, from being that only child, because we could devote so much time to her because she was the only child. It's been harder to devote that much time to my other 2 children because now we have shared time. And yeah, that's been a challenge, man. Just having multiple children, it's a real challenge, man.
Let me ask you a question about that, actually. So, kind of like on the topic of guilt, when your second child comes along, do you have those sorts of feelings because you maybe not giving them the same amount of time as you did to your first one, and you're splitting that time? Maybe you feel guilty about the first child, that they're sort of like not the focus of attention. How did that hit you when that came about?
Ooh. Um And it was a little different because my first was a girl, and then I
Okay.
had a son.
Right.
So just generally, there's a different dynamic. This is my first son. Um, he's the only other boy in the house. Um, so there was like this dynamic of, okay, I gotta spend this time with my son because he needs that. But I couldn't put too much in like, and then my son was born December 2015. We found out my wife was pregnant again February 2016. So it was like, oh my
Yeah.
God, what is going like it was like literally out of nowhere. So for us, it just kind of put me back into a mode. I couldn't spend too much time with my son because I was trying to work. I did a lot, like with my first child, I read to her every night. I made it a thing that I would read to her all the time, man. And because of that, she was reading at 3 years old. Like literally she was reading like it was nothing. So she excelled because of the time that I could spend with her, taking her to the public library and reading books and renting out books and all of that. So she benefited from that. When my son came, it was like, 2 months. Then I found out my wife was pregnant again. So my wife was making another child inside of her body. So she's dealing with that. I'm dealing with the pressure of, man, I'm about to have 3 children in like 8 months. And I'm still getting used to having 2 children. And it was man. When I tell you it was difficult, and then still trying to work and make enough money to provide for the family. It was, man, that was
So
like,
did you have to work more then? Like, did you take on extra hours and things like that? Or
yeah, had to
yeah,
take on more hours. Yeah, man, that right there was like, man, I'm so happy we are past that point because that it was just like I say, it was so difficult, man. Just trying to maintain, and then marriage started getting a little harder at that time. Trying to still find time for my wife, find time for myself, find time for this child. And then, you want to be able to still give time individually to each child, but that's hard. It's hard to, it's it's hard, man. But you can do it. You just got to really map your time out. And if you're not intentional in mapping your time out, you get lost in the cycle of life, and it's just hard. So um we made it through it, you know. Once my last daughter came, you know, and all of my kids have these different personalities. So trying to deal with 3 different personalities along with my wife and her personality, that's 4 personalities that I have to juggle every day. So it could get rough and pretty tough at times, but it I believe that that's the type of stuff that makes you a better man because you learn so much about yourself and um you know in areas that you're inadequate and places that you need to work on. It's a lot, man. Parenting and marriage are 2 things that mold you in a way that nothing else can.
definitely.
Nothing.
And I'm only just out of the blocks. I'm not far down the road, but I agree already. It just puts a different perspective on everything, doesn't it? And it's made me a better person. I think. I think I've always had the drive for sort of like self improvement. Well, I say that I've not always, but um, years recently I have, but being a dad just accelerates that so much more. And yeah, you're always thinking about your child, your wife, that dynamic of everyone, and you just want to get the best out of things, don't you? But it's definitely a lot to juggle.
Oh yeah. How have you balanced your work life? How do you balance work and just living life? You know, how do you balance work, marriage, and now children? These are three totally different things. How do you balance all of that?
Yeah. So like before having our little girl, it was fine. Like we basically just lived for the weekends.
Yeah.
Um, and then obviously with having a child, it's not as straightforward. But I guess I guess I've been quite lucky in the type of work that I do. Um, I'm a physical therapist, but I'm a community one, or always have been to the sort of most extent anyway. And that what that means is, at least with my employer, you typically have a patient caseload, and you will either go out to see them in their own homes, or into schools, or sort of day centers and things like that, and you structure your own day. And the way things are now digitally, um, it's not the case everywhere actually, but we were given a laptop to write our patient notes, and it goes onto an electronic sort of system, and you could do that. You had access to do that from wherever you were. It was called like agile working, so you could do it from the place that you were seeing the patient, but you were given the freedom to see these patients throughout the day, and then you had your admin time at the end of the day, and you could do that at home. So having that sort of flexibility would let me get home sooner, and let's say maybe put the washing machine on to wash some clothes, get things ready, maybe pick my daughter up from nursery. My job now is a tiny bit different to the previous ones, where I do have that flexibility, but I'm sort of at a base a lot more. But essentially, I was lucky, and a lot of people don't have that flexibility.
Mm-hmm.
But still, it's probably in the last 9 months I've just come to the point of where, even with that sort of extra flex in my type of work, it still wasn't good enough, because I felt that I couldn't take my child to nursery in the morning because I'd have to be at clinic to see patients for a certain time. The sort of career progression pathway ladder was very sort of rigid, not a lot of options. You sort of have to wait your turn. So trying to get somewhere in your career, I mean, I'm not afraid of hard work, but the amount of energy that you would have to put into these things and the time it took as well, you'd get like only a small return. And I just came to a point of where I was like, I want more flexibility in my life. I love my family more than anything in the world. They are just my number one. And we live once. I'm not going to live to work by someone else's rules.
Yeah.
I want to live and make the rules that allow me to spend as much time with my family and have those precious moments, and not miss out on them because somebody says you've got to be there at this time, or you've got to do this. So in the past 3-4 months, I've had discussions with my employer, and I've sort of gone into it part-time as a physiotherapist, physical therapist. I guess I've jumped the gun there a little. What happened was, last October, my grandma passed away, and I think it just put a different perspective on everything for me. And like I say, I realized that life's too short. So I put extra efforts into thinking, what could I do to get me out of this rigid structure of the 9 to 5? So I did a lot of sort of reading, education around property, real estate, because it's a vehicle where you can build wealth over the longer term, but by doing that, it gives you more flexibility back to decide what you want to do with your time. So I put lots of energy into that, joined a network of like-minded people, sort of got on board with doing that sort of thing and trying to make the moves to purchase my first property, all while still working full time. But recently I've gone part time so I can put more energy into this sort of like property venture now. So it's tough trying to balance work and family and work and the everyday. So for example, getting to nursery or doing the shopping, and then I say family separately because what that means to me is those moments where you're bonding. And I know you can do that with, let's say, going to the supermarket, but having time to do the more special things that maybe we don't put as much effort into if we're in this rigid structure of the 9 to 5. So I'm on this pathway now where I'm creeping towards this area of, okay, down that road at the end of it, there's a gate. When I get through it, I'm going to be the person that says, I'm not doing this, I'm not doing that, I'm doing this. It's we're going here with my family, or we're spending time doing this. At the moment, obviously, I still have certain commitments with my employer financially, but going part-time has given me more ability. It's given me an extra 2 days a week. And one of those days is childcare with my little girl, but that's fine. But the extra days that I've been given allows me to put my energy into that, into building something for the future for us. So it's going to take a lot of hard work. We're nowhere close, but I've taken that first step really. But it's tough, and a lot of people are in the same position as me, or the same position as where I have been, where they've maybe not made a start. People are fed up. They're sick of this sort of working in a job that they don't necessarily like, but they've either been told at school you have to follow this pathway, and you have to go to university, college, you have to go down this path, or you have to take these subjects at school, yada yada yada. Sometimes that's passed on by parents, it's passed on by teachers, but a lot of people are out there who aren't happy in the work that they're doing. And I mean, I like physical therapy. I work with kids now, and it's great. It's just like essentially what you're doing is playing with them to help reach their goals. So I see kids with a lot of different types of presentations, sort of developmental delay, lots of developmental disabilities, and that's great. But the behind the scenes stuff, the structure of things, the systems you have to work with, it all ties you in knots and you don't get anywhere. So I need to get out of it. It's sometimes a bit toxic. So that's one of the reasons I want to come out of that line of work, really. But yeah, there are lots of people out there. And I was listening to one of your podcasts where you were saying, Anthony, that you got to a point in life where you sort of had these negative, sort of toxic associations with people, and you were going down a path that you realized that was no good for you, and you just had that moment and you're like, what am I going to do? What am I doing with my life? And you started to change it, didn't you?
Oh yeah, definitely. And I think that's important, man, to know that, especially to find something. This one guy that I know, he always says, what you do outside of your nine is not about your 9 to 5. It's about what you do from 5 to 9. You know, the 9 to 5 is the 9 to 5, but the only way you get away from the 9 to 5 is to develop something in between 5 and 9, you know, where you're working something for yourself, and eventually your 5 to 9 becomes the 9 to 5. And so that's something that, I always think about, and that's definitely important that you're doing something like that, because that will be the thing that will give you the freedom and give you the time that you need to be able to spend that with your family. You definitely want for your kids to remember. One thing I do know about kids is kids rarely remember the things that you buy them. They remember the time spent, and there's another quote where they say, no man wishes that he made more money on his deathbed. He wishes he thinks about all the time that he didn't spend with the people that he loved, the time that he didn't, like, on your deathbed, you're not thinking, man, I could have made another $1 million. You're like, what is money? That stuff is whatever, but you're gonna be thinking about, you know, man, I could have, spent more time with my son. I could have spent more time with my daughter. I could have loved them more. I could have showed them how much more, I love them. I could have loved on my wife even more. I could have cherished her more. Those are the things that you're gonna, you know, those are the things that would eat you on your deathbed if you didn't do those things. And, and those are also the things that could have you at peace, on your deathbed, knowing that you gave your family your all, knowing that you loved your children, that you gave your wife your everything. And yeah, man, those are the things that we got to strive for. And I'm in that same boat, man, trying to create
You're hustling,
something.
aren't you? You've been hustling for a long time, like you say. It's from the 5 until whatever time in the morning, isn't it?
Yeah,
Where and I think the thing that I've been conscious about lately is I'm doing all these things to try and get more flexibility that I can spend time with my family. But at the same time, because I'm trying to build something, I'm putting a lot of energy into that. And sometimes that's detracting me from spending time with my family. So I'm just really conscious of finding that right balance, because there will have to be some sort of sacrifice initially,
yeah.
but in the long term is where you get that return. And yeah, I guess it's just in my mind, and it's that sort of like guilt thing again, and it's something
Mm-hmm.
that I'm trying to work with. But you would have had the same. You were doing lots of sort of, were you doing radio work, and then you're trying to build your podcast like all while you were
Um,
at
I've been
school, is
doing
that right?
I've been doing warehouse work for like the last 10 years. So
Mm.
I currently work at the Walmart warehouse. So I do that, that's 5 in the morning till 3 in the afternoon. And then I went back to school in 2019, 3 years ago. And I was just like, man, I'm just gonna get back in school so that I could try to get something up under my belt. I'm in my 30s now, like, never did go to college. I just want to do it was just something that I always wanted to do. And as I went there, I was already doing my podcast. I started the podcast maybe 2018. I had a friend that worked at a radio station. And when I got the idea, I was at the library with my kids. And I was just like, man, I gotta do something different. I gotta create something, man, that's like would be fulfilling. I want to be able to. I want something to do something with purpose. Like, I didn't feel like my life had any purpose, and I came up with the idea for the podcast, man. Right there at the library, I wrote everything down in my phone, and I went to my friend that worked at the station, and he was like, "Hey, I'll give you a free hour of airtime every week." And that's where it started. Um, I did it once a week for a few months, and that didn't work out too good. I mean, I really didn't like the radio setting. It was a lot of restrictions, and I was like, I want to do a podcast, man. Like, that's really, 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 really what I want to do. I want to be free and do it on my own time and do it my way and say the things that I want to say, and allow my guests to say the things that they want to say. And that's where it started. So once I got back into school, and my school gave me a laptop and an iPad. And I was like, cool. And they had all the programs on it. And I went and bought me some mics. And I was like, cool, I'm gonna start a podcast. This is everything I need. And then I took a class that taught me how to create logos. And that's where I came up with my logo. I made my own logo.
You
And I
said
was
that
like,
on one of your podcasts, yeah.
yeah. So I was like, boom, I got it. I put it out. A few people saw the logo and they were like, man, what? I love this. I'm like, seriously? And everyone that I talked with, they loved it. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. This might be the one. And I just kind of started from there. And like I say, it's giving me that sense of purpose. I talk with a lot of men and they're just like, man, I love what you're doing. I really appreciate you for speaking up for Black men, speaking up for Black fatherhood. Just dads in general, guys that come to me and they're just like, man, I just really love that you've created this space for fathers to be able to come and talk and do these, just give us, like, you're giving us a voice, and I'm like, hey, that was the whole goal of it. I want to be able to give us a voice because I feel like no one wants to hear men talk except for us, so why not create a space where we can talk and we can listen to each other talk? Because I feel like no one else cares about what dads are going through, but I would always talk to men that are going through some of the same things I'm going through. And you know I'm 2 years and a half now, almost 2 years and a half in doing the podcast. And man, the support that I get, it's not like this huge listening where I got 1 million listens, but it's making an impact. It reached you way in a whole other country, and it might not be the biggest thing in the world, but I'm like, man, whatever, I don't care if it reaches 20 people, it's doing something and it's made some type of impact within the lives of men.
Definitely. And the key thing is you love it. You enjoy it. It's giving you something. You're not kind of just doing it, and like it gives so much value to us dads being able to like hear these experiences. But if someone's doing that and they've not got their whole heart into it, it comes to a point where it might just like drop off.
Yeah.
But to love doing that sort of thing, to do anything that you do, it makes it run to so much longer, doesn't it? And that's the key, that I want to do something I love, and I think I'm still trying to find that. And with property, with real estate, it's a means to get there. Real estate's not my sort of like passion, but it's allowing me to take that step away. I think what I've found lately is, because I'm with what I'm trying to do with stepping out of my day job, I decided it would be a good idea to document like my steps along the way. So that's why I set up my Instagram, and I set up a TikTok and like a Twitter, because I wasn't big on social media before. I would not use it. I was quite a private person, but now I've sort of had this mindset change, and I'm trying to document things. One, because it creates that sort of story, and it's good to look back on. But like you can impact other people, and if I just impact one other person's life, that means so much, because you've changed someone's life. So it's amazing what you're doing, and like I say, you have to have that passion. And for me at the moment, with some of the videos that I'm creating, I found like if I can be a bit more creative with them and put my spin on it, I'm really enjoying that. So maybe that's something for the future that I might get into a bit more. But no, what you're providing is brilliant. And with you saying that maybe you don't have like the biggest amount of followers, you're 2.5 years in. If your love for it continues, that's just going to grow and grow. These things don't happen overnight. So the best thing is that you're not feeling that pressure over it. You're doing it because you enjoy it. You're not doing it to try and get something financial out of it.
Yeah,
and that's a big difference.
definitely. Man, I got this last question for you.
Go on.
I'm not sure how old you are, but if you could go back and sit like how me and you were talking right now, and you could
Mm.
talk to the 18-year-old Daniel, and if you can give that young man, look him face to face, knowing everything that you know now at the age that you're at now, and if you could give that young man one piece of advice going forward, what would you tell him?
I love that question because that's something I thought about recently. I love that question. I would tell him quite a lot of different things.
Yeah.
Number one would be, don't worry.
Mm,
At that age, I didn't know what I wanted to do career-wise, and I was sort of like pushed certain directions by school, and there was this sort of idea that you had to go to university, and I did in the end. I went to university twice because the first thing that I did once I finished, I decided I didn't want to do it anymore because it wasn't what I wanted. But no, I would say slow down, relax,
yeah.
experience things, go and try different things out because we're gonna live to an old age, and that I think with I do a lot listening to Gary V.
Mhm.
I don't know if you heard his
Yeah,
stuff, but
definitely. Yeah.
he talks about it a lot, and it's there's this pressure to get in a job straight away, and you're stuck there, and it results in people being unhappy in their work. So
Mhm.
I would say to my 18-year-old self, go and try different things. Don't follow the crowd. Be your own person. Um, Another thing I would say is because I was quite shy. Um, I wouldn't say grow some balls and just go and do it because I think I think it's a process that you get there with, and confidence builds over time. But I definitely say um I definitely say just be more willing to approach people and ask about their experiences.
Mm,
I think you can take a lot from someone's life experience, their wisdom, because essentially we learn by making mistakes. So if someone's gotten to a point of being a success with whatever it is, it might be, I don't know, it might be being a painter, or they might be in construction, or they might have their own bakery, whatever it is. They've been on this sort of pathway where they've had to make lots of mistakes to eventually get to the point of being a success,
mm,
because it's the mistakes that we learn from and realize not to do again. So I guess kind of I would say put yourself out there more. Be patient, be relaxed, try different things, put yourself out there more. And um, I got to that point quite quickly. But I'd say don't worry about what other people think. It's
mm,
it's it's your world. You follow your own path. If
mhm,
someone's not on board with you, that's okay. They can take a different boat.
mhm. And I love all of that, man. Especially that part about the experience. That's something that I would definitely tell my 18-year-old self. Um, I was a little afraid, coming out of high school and being in
Mm,
the same city that I'm still in the same city where I grew up. I would have definitely told myself, man, experience life, before you start thinking about marriage and kids and all of this stuff, man. Just I,
definitely.
I wasted so much time doing things that didn't matter,
Hmm.
and gained a lot of experience in certain areas where I probably shouldn't have experienced. But nevertheless, I experienced some things in life, but I would have chosen different things to do. There's so many other things I could have done. So many different things I could have put my time and energy into, my money into. I was making, I had a job. I could have done so many different things. I could have went and visited different places, before I had responsibilities. And, I thought about that today. Um, I made that post on Instagram about I was doing some DoorDash last night. And
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
I had to take in order to this certain neighborhood where I actually used to hang out with my friends at all the time. Like that's where I used to hang out all the time. Like that was my spot. I met my wife there. And it just brought back so many memories last night. I'm like, wow, man. Like I spent many nights here doing all types of things that I'm like, I don't know what, like where did it's crazy stuff. But I could have like been doing so many different things with my life. You know, I could have just so many more experiences I could have had to understand myself and what I like and what I enjoyed. But yeah, man, I just love that, you know, and that's something that I always tell other young men when I talk with them and they don't have kids and they don't have a wife. I'm like, man, what? You're complaining about what? Come on, man. Go and experience life, bro. You don't have anything to even worry about right now, bro. You're 18, you're 19 years old. You know, you don't even have any bills yet right now, man. You know, you're working, man. Spend your money wisely. Um, do something that's gonna set yourself up for the time when you're 25 and 30 years old, man. Like don't follow my path where I'm now just 30 years old, finding out my passion and what I want to do. Like, start exploring those things right now, you know. So, yeah,
Yeah,
that's
on the plus side, like from where you've been to where you've come from, that's a massive positive. You've flipped it. So
yeah,
even though you prefer that you were doing this earlier on in your life, you've changed it. You've come out of that place where you didn't want to be, and you're exactly in the place you do want to be.
definitely,
I don't know
definitely.
if I don't know if we've got time, but just on the topic of like what we would tell our younger selves,
Hmm.
has it changed your approach to what you would tell your kids when they get into that point of making decisions about education, etc.?
Definitely, definitely, man. Everything that I've experienced up until this point, uh, is gonna like be everything that I tell my kids, you know, and not to try to, you know, because like you said, I do believe that everything that I did experience has everything to do with who I am today. You know, so all of the mistakes that I made, all of those experiences that I had, you know, I wouldn't, I probably wouldn't be who I am today. I probably wouldn't have had the impact on other people that I've had, you know, if I didn't go through those things, because a part of everything that I do, you know, I just remember the things that I've experienced. And I'm like, man, if I can just help another, like, if I could just help a young man, you know, be able to navigate life, you know, if I could help my son, help my daughters, you know, be able to navigate life and not experience some of the things that I've experienced, man, I want to do everything in my power. I want to be able to tell stories, you know, so that people can understand that, you know, you aren't your mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like everything, like people look at me now and they see me doing all of these things. You know, I was like, when I graduated, that was like the biggest accomplishment of my life, you know, because of the circumstances, you know,
Mm-hmm.
32 years old, you know, failed, dropped out of college twice, um, was working full time, going to school full time, taking care of a family, you know, 3 kids, wife, um, doing community work, doing all of these things, and to accomplish something like that, you know, and building a podcast all at the same time, and got my side business that I do, all of these different things, and to show people that just because, okay, yeah, I made some mistakes in my life, cool, but I'm not gonna allow my mistakes to keep me in the same place to where I've been, you know, for the last 5 years. I'm gonna turn some things around, and I'm not gonna allow this to be the end of my story. And that's like the thing that I want to be able to teach my kids and other people just everywhere, that, you know, yeah, you're gonna make mistakes. You know, the ideal life would be to be perfect and to never make a mistake. But what type of life is that? You know, that you never um you never learn to appreciate the sun until you experience a rainy day. You know, because you've experienced rainy days, you appreciate when you see the sun out and it's hot and it's a beautiful day outside, because you're like, man, it was just a thunderstorm yesterday. You know, there was a hurricane that came through. You know, I live in Florida, so we go through hurricane season over here, and you know, being through hurricane season always makes you appreciate when you do see the sun, because you know that at any time that those waters out on the Atlantic or in the Gulf of Mexico can start getting crazy, and there could be a storm come through here at any time. You know, so
I
if you
can't
never,
imagine. That's yeah, that is crazy. I can't imagine living
yeah,
through that.
man, it's crazy, man. You know, we haven't had like the crazy storm season since maybe 2017. That was the last time we had like a big storm come through Florida. Hurricane Irma came through here, and man, it destroyed the entire Florida, man. And it was just a hard thing. You know, a lot of people lost a lot during that time, man. So, you know, just knowing that every year, you know, we make it through hurricane season from May to November without a big storm, you celebrate that, you know, because you just never know. Life is unexpected things happen all the time. So, you know, you just got to take the good with the bad. You know, you make those mistakes, and, you know, you allow your mistakes to make you better. So, that's definitely the things that I'm teaching my kids, you know, and trying to be the example of that for them.
Exactly, because that's what we're trying to do in be a better dad, isn't it? And we have to go through all these mistakes, but at the end of it, there's that sunshine, and it's our kids being independent and thriving, and we know we've done our job then. But yeah,
Mhm.
getting there, we have to be consistent, we have to be accountable as well.
Mhm.
And yeah, it's a tough job, but I wouldn't change it for anything.
Oh no. Oh no, man. Definitely will not do that. But hey, listen, man, we definitely had a good talk, man. I've enjoyed this. Um I've learned a few things.
Yeah, me
Um
too, man. I could talk to you for like another couple of hours.
man, listen, my wife knows me. I will talk forever, man. You know, and that's my thing. So a lot of times I gotta like hold myself back. You know, I have episodes on the podcast where I'm like, man, I gotta try to hold it back, because me, man, I'll have every episode be 3 or 4 hours. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
like I could just go on and on and on. So many topics we can talk about, so many different things, man. But you know, we both have families, and I've been gone all day. So yeah, man, we're gonna end that there. But man, listen, we gotta stay in contact. We definitely have to stay in contact after this, man.
No, definitely. I've got you on Instagram. I think I added you on Twitter today because I found you on Twitter.
Okay.
But
Man, I gotta get
no,
better at
yeah,
posting there.
yeah, no, same here. But no, yeah, like a year down the line, let's do the same again. But until that point, I'll be dropping you the odd message to say, see how you're doing. Yeah,
Oh yeah,
definitely.
definitely. Hey man, tell the people where they can find you on social media.
Yeah, so I'm mainly on Instagram and TikTok under at hi that dad guy. So yeah, just drop by. Give me give me a shout. Ask me anything you want. I'm always trying to reply to people. So yeah, you can find me there. I'm on Twitter as well. I'm setting up my Facebook. I'm not quite there yet, but in the
Okay.
next week it should be there. So I'm trying to document, like I say, my journey of getting out the day job, but having a bit of fun on the way. So you might see some silly videos of just me being a dad and a prat.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Oh
yeah, come
yeah,
and say
man.
hello.
Definitely, man. So Dad, Can We Talk community, man. You guys go and follow my man on Instagram and TikTok, and find him on Twitter. And you guys support him in whatever way. You know, if it could, support can come easily as a click of a like, you know, and if you see something on this page, engage, say something, let him know that he's doing all right, man. One thing about us men, we love appreciation. That's the thing. If men were cars, appreciation is the engine of that car. Nothing moves without appreciation, man. So, just let, not just me and not just him, but any man out there, if you know a man, if you know a dad, tell that dad today that you appreciate him and that, he's making a difference and you appreciate everything that he does. You would make that man's day. So, hey, Daniel, man, we're gonna leave it there. Definitely great talking with you, man. I think I gained me a new friend. And
Yeah, definitely,
yeah,
mate.
man, you can
Definitely.
contact me anytime, man. I'm always open. I'm always available, man. Just let me know.
Same to you, mate. Anytime, just drop me a message.
Oh yeah, definitely. So anyone listening to this, y'all will be able to find this streaming on YouTube at Dad Can We Talk. We're actually posted on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor.fm. Or you can just simply go to dadcanwetalk.com. You can find the YouTube page there. You can find all of the uh, episodes, streaming, everything is right there. And for those that are local here, and for anyone that listens, if you want a shirt, I have some new shirts that will be here next week. I will have my original design. The original logo that you see all over the place with the red, the yellow, and the green. I'll have some of those shirts coming next week, and then I have a brand new design where it'll kind of have the Nigerian flag in the background. It'll be white and green on a black shirt. So I am super ready to get my shirt. So I haven't had a new shirt in a while. So I'll have those hopefully by next Tuesday. So if you guys need a shirt, inbox me, let me know your size. The shirts are $30 a piece. So, man, listen, this has been another great episode of Dad Can We Talk. Y'all going to follow all the pages and continue to stay tuned for more stories from dads all over the world. But Daniel, man, I appreciate you.
I appreciate you, bro. Thank you.
All right, man. See you later. I'll talk with you later.
Cheers, bro.